So we're going to get started. We have some people texted that they're on their way, but we're going to begin. Another thing to note is that, importantly, in conjunction with last night's event, this program is being recorded and will be disseminated so that it can be viewed at a later date. And we hope that that's a useful dissemination of this important program. So first, my name is Andy Bernheimer, and I am an assistant professor of architecture here at Parsons.
And I'm David Levin, associate professor at School of Constructed Environments.
We'd like to first offer some thanks, and for some of you who were at Larry Scarpa's talk last night, some of this might be repetitive, but nonetheless we wanted to frame the event and first offer some thanks. So thanks to SCE and Parsons, Dean Joel Towers, Dean Robert Kirkbride, the staff Bethany Camerati, Hien Dean, for all their help, really critical in making this happen. To the Provost's office for supporting research grants which have led to research which led to this program. And really great debt is owed to the Healthy Materials Lab here at Parsons, Jansara Ruth, Allison Mears, the directors, Abigail Calhoun, Lena Cuvella, for their incredible financial, moral, and administrative support. This event really couldn't have happened without them. And so we thank them deeply.
We also want to thank our guests who have come to the lab, to this symposium. Brian Phillips, Henry Decker, Elizabeth Whittaker, and David Dowell, Mark Lamster as well, and last night Larry Scarpa, who was the keynote speaker. We wanted to also just frame the issues around the Metropolitan Housing Lab. The lab is a nascent effort founded by Andy and myself, following on about 5 years of teaching housing here at Parsons. Also coming out of an extensive study with the New York City Housing Authority in a book that we put together called Nightjapedia. We also traveled to the UK to look at social housing there as well. And we would also, just by way of a statement of the mission of the lab, if you will, that we're developing, the Metropolitan Housing Lab proposes that housing is more than buildings with apartments. We propose that the range of factors that comprise human habitation in the city must be brought into the wholesale recasting of housing. These factors include infrastructure, nature, people, food, jobs, health, and the various modes of dwelling. Given the lack of equity in the increasingly privatized city, these factors both expand and provide for all citizens.
The lab also invites academics, professionals, and others committed to the issues of urban housing to examine the current processes that either produce or hinder its realization. Areas of focus are architecture, environmental justice, healthy living, affordability, indoor air quality, healthy and sustainable material cultures, communities, and of course, policy and civic equity. The lab will locate the most innovative approaches to housing during this time of focus on dwelling inequity in New York City.
The lab will over time invite participation in discussions such as these, workshops, and through design inquiries set new courses for how New York City's residents dwell and how the city's existing housing stock and form can be reformulated to address the pressures of urban growth, climate, health, and social change in the 21st century. In terms of this event's direction, one of the key words from the previous sentence about the lab is design. Since the main focus of this symposium revolves around design issues intrinsic to the making of affordable housing, we'd like to define design and to define a few other terms inherent in this gathering today. First, affordable. Webster's defines affordable as having a cost that is not too high or reasonable. Interestingly, Webster's also connects affordable with housing in a phrase that exemplifies the definition of affordable. The word reasonable is significant for its connotation of low cost, but more notably for a host of definitions that one could assign to the word reasonable that are beyond cost and have more to do with reason, logic, and perhaps something that is just okay or simply not unacceptable. Second, housing is defined by Webster's as, quote, shelter, lodging, dwellings provided for all, unquote, and also, quote, something that covers or protects, unquote.
And lastly, design. So design has many definitions in our source, Webster, and these include, quote, a particular purpose or intention, a mental project or scheme, a decorative pattern or a plan or a protocol for carrying out or accomplishing something, unquote. Design in the context of this lab and of this symposium, Housing Left, Right, and Center, is all of these things and is fully conscious of the fact that there are a myriad range of factors that influence how housing is formulated, including economics, politics, and social issues. But in the context of this discussion, design and the role of the designer in the making of dignified housing for people is a creative act that is also based in aesthetics, organizational approaches, design traditions, and the idiosyncratic sensibilities of the designer. The central question that this conversation will raise is how one goes about designing housing. How does one synthesize deep complexity, competing voices, contradictions perhaps, and just simply design? What are the questions, what are the constraints, and what are the opportunities for design and for housing? So one other thing to note, if it isn't apparent from the guests we have here for this event, is that other than Mark, who is a native New Yorker, though transplanted to Texas, we do not have participants, other than you, from New York City. This is intentional. We all know New York. Most of us live, work, wrestle with this place, and we believe that it is vital to extract ourselves from this city, at least at the outset, to break our habits, to see other places, to witness and hear about solutions from places with different rules, different climates, different communities, though with potentially common goals for elevating the housing typology. So we will remain rooted here in New York, but for this first event, we wanted to travel a little bit.
Last night we had Larry Scarpa as the keynote speaker from Los Angeles. Wonderfully, Larry helped frame the issues central to this discussion today around the design of housing. He also expanded that definition, of course, beyond just design to include the factors that go into the making of design, including policy, zoning, and kind of a range of hard-nosed strategies needed to realize good design in housing.
So we're excited to hear from our guests today. We're going to introduce all of them now, and then they will come up and present their work. And then following their case study presentations, there will be a moderated discussion with Mark, and then a chance for some questions and answers following. We have a hard deadline of just before noon because there are flights to catch for some people. So first, our moderator, Mark Lamster. Mark is the architecture critic of the Dallas Morning News and a professor in the architecture school at the University of Texas at Arlington. In 2017, Mark was a Loeb Fellow at the GSD at Harvard, and in 2016, he was given the Robert Deckard Award for Civic Journalism, the highest honor bestowed by the Dallas Morning News. He is the author of several books on a variety of subjects and is currently at work on a biography of the late architect Philip Johnson to be published by Little Brown. The architects with us today. Anne-Marie Decker, FAIA. Anne-Marie is the founding principal of Duvall Decker Architects, located in Jackson, Mississippi. Duvall Decker is an expanded design practice with work including architectural design, community planning, real estate development, and facility maintenance. Duvall Decker is recognized for its design and planning excellence and its innovative approach to inner city development. The firm's work and approach has been highlighted in many publications such as the New York Times, and in 2017, the Architectural League of New York selected Duvall Decker as one of its emerging voices. Anne-Marie is also a recognized contributor to the advancement of the profession, serving AIA Mississippi as a long-term board member and president and developing its Mississippi Celebrates Architecture program. She's currently a trustee of the AIA Trust and has been invited to share the firm's work and her experience as a lecturer, critic, teacher, and design juror. Second, David Dowell. David is a partner at Dorado, Inc. and founder of the Design Plus Make studio at Kansas State University. His work focuses on architecture as a tool to cultivate dignified common ground. He believes that good design is possible for anyone, anywhere, and that building well-crafted buildings still matters. His recent projects include the Restart apartment complex, a master plan for the Kansas City Art Institute, a biological pavilion for Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, and a hybrid new old studio art building for the University of Arkansas. With his students, David recently completed an affordable housing duplex and an ecological education facility in the Kansas Flint Hills. In their 2016 survey, Architect Magazine named El Dorado Inc. the number 11 design firm. In 2015, the firm was featured as Curbed's inaugural class of groundbreakers.
Also with us today is Brian Phillips. Brian is founding principal of ISA and creative director across all aspects of the firm's work, from architectural assignments to installations and research. The studio works closely with project stakeholders to produce buildings, master plans, installations, and conversations that provide innovative solutions for clients while productively addressing changing climates, lifestyles, technologies, and urban environments. ISA has won over 30 design awards, and the firm's work has been published in the New York Times, Dowell, Architect Magazine, and Architectural Record, to name a few. Brian was a Pew Fellow in the Arts in 2011, and the firm was named an Emerging Voice for the Architectural League of New York in 2015. Brian is a lecturer at Penn Design, where he teaches a graduate urban housing studio. He has also taught visiting studios at the University of Miami and at Parsons, and here at Parsons. Also with us is Elizabeth Whittaker. Elizabeth Whittaker, AIA is founder and principal of Merge Architects. Elizabeth has served on the Boston Society of Architects, AIA Board of Directors, the BSA AIA Roch Traveling Fellowship Committee, and the BSA AIA Nominating Committee. In 2015, she received the AIA Young Architects Award, and in 2014, her firm was honored with the Design Vanguard Award from Architectural Record. Elizabeth graduated from Harvard University's Graduate School of Design with distinction. She approaches architecture as a discipline embedded in both practice and academia. She has taught design studios in several architecture programs, including Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Northeastern University, the Boston Architectural College, and Harvard University, GSD, where she was also lead faculty in architecture in their Career Discovery Summer Program. Elizabeth currently holds a faculty position as Associate Professor in Practice of Architecture at Harvard University's Graduate School of Design.
So we will now start.